Hey everybody, it's Jorik. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well and having a great day wherever you are. Today's video, I wanted to dig in a little bit on Europe travel here in the summertime of 2023. If you've never traveled to Europe, I'm going to offer you some travel tips and some things to think about. If you have traveled here in the past, things may be a little bit different and a little more hectic than what you're used to. So I want to dig into some of the reasons why and some of the things that you maybe need to think about. So we just completed almost 6 weeks of travel throughout Italy. And in that area, we hit the hot spots of like a Lake Como, Florence, Rome, Palermo, Sicily. And we've talked to several of the the hoteliers, the people that we are used to visiting on our travels to Italy, and they found that the tourism is at an all-time high. And what I mean by that is transactions, and I don't mean post-pandemic, I mean all time. For give you an example, we stayed right next to the Pantheon in Rome with a family who has some restaurants there and some other retail shops. They've been in business since 1954, I believe. And with that, this is the busiest season that they've had transaction-wise since they've been in business in Pantheon Square. So it's something that as you're looking to go to Europe and make a nice vacation for yourself and your family, just want to make sure that you're aware of some of the things that are going on. First, I'm going to put up this screenshot. Allianz, I believe, did a study saying that bookings are up 55% this year for accommodations, tourist attractions, things of that nature. So you're going to want to be aware of that as you're planning your trip. Now, as I'm making this video, hopefully everything's been planned, but if not, I want to make sure that you're aware. Here are some travel tips. First, a load of patience. I can tell you from our experience traveling for years throughout Europe before we moved and now after we've moved, there's going to be delays and cancellations between flights and trains and buses. Not so much your hotels or Airbnbs, but you never know. There may be late check-ins or things of that nature that cause more frustration for you than ever. And a dose of patience while you're traveling, regardless of year, regardless of city, country, or going to see an attraction, is important. Because unlike previous years, I'm going to go into some explanations as to why things are maybe more hectic than usual. Second, with that, if you're going to be traveling throughout Europe, it may be something to consider getting some travel insurance. I'm not trying to sell anybody's insurance, but I will say during the pandemic, it became something because so many things were canceled, delayed, moved around. Travel insurance kind of blew up a little bit, that it may be something even in 2023 with the amount of travel, the amount of lines getting a little longer, the amount of cancellations and delays, you may want to consider it just to sort of hedge your bet a little bit on your travel, whatever you're doing. The next thing that I want to get into a little bit is strikes in Europe. Talk about it in many of my videos. It's a way of life in the summer here. Now, in some countries, it's extended. Sometimes it's gone into the fall and winter and spring. But here, transportation strikes especially. So whether you're heading to, let's say you're going to London, Lisbon, Paris, Munich, Rome, Athens, you never know when there may be something. So it's important to make sure that you're reading the local newspapers. All of them have an online version, and you can translate them into your language through Google Translate and be able to see what's upcoming as far as a train strike that may cause you a delay if you have train tickets, airline strike, or there's an airport that the staff is having a strike. It's important to know that because that can throw a true monkey wrench into your travels. Along those lines, but I'll say in a positive way, festival season. Europe, kind of June, July, August, there's lots of festivals throughout Europe. And with that can cause just more lines, more queues, and delays getting in and out of airports, other public transportation, just even checking into hotels or your short-term accommodations, that can be delayed based upon the level of vacancy that they have or what they have going on. So that's something to consider as well when you're making your plans for Europe. The next thing, and this is something that probably doesn't get talked about a lot, but we can experience it here in Portugal, and we experienced it here throughout Italy, was the lack of staff, the hospitality industry. So wherever they're sourcing staff, whether it be locals, immigrants, whatever combination that they have to be able to staff restaurants, hotels, things of that nature, even some attractions, it's very difficult. Many countries and many the hotel industry, the restaurant industries, they're having a hard time getting full staff. So you have to maybe wait a little bit longer to get into a restaurant. Once you're in there, you might have to wait a little bit longer for your cafe or your meal. Those are things that, due to a lack of staff across the board and across Europe when it comes to hospitality, it can create a little more frustration, because if you come to your favorite restaurant for years, you may get the same service if it's the same wait staff and it's a full staff. But if they have a reduced staff, then you're going to it may be a little different experience, because you may have to wait longer for service and to get things. So just be prepared to wait a little bit longer. Again, have more patience when you're trying to get through the travel season this summer in Europe. And then lastly, and this is something that probably goes without saying, book as far in advance as you can. So my guess is, at the making of this video, if you're coming this summer, you've already booked your flights, because you needed to do that a while ago to get the best deals. Accommodations, if you haven't, you probably need to get those things shored up and secured, because prices for flights have been astronomical in 2023, but also prices for accommodations, and not just hotels. Airbnbs, VRBOs, they're at an all-time high too in many of the most popular cities to go to. So it's something to be aware of when you're trying to budget things along the way. So that's something. Attractions as well. I will say, if you have the opportunity to book an attraction as far out in advance. Now, not all attractions cost money. Some are free to get into, but they do request that you have a timed entry. So if you can book that, let's say a month out or further, to know that on this particular day and this particular time you're going to go, that's important. Or if you are looking to, let's say you're going to go to Florence, Italy, and you want to go to the Accademia Gallery to see Michelangelo's David. You have the opportunity to book out in advance and at a time. You're going to want to do that, because if you just arrive in Florence and say, hey, we're going to go check out David, it's not going to happen, because it usually is booked out for several days. So unless you're there for a long time, you're not going to be able to see that particular sculpture. I can also tell you from Rome, I made a short on this on the Pantheon, that Monday through Friday, it's free to get in. You don't have to pay anything yet. They're going to issue at some point later this summer. Allegedly, there's going to be a fee. But Monday through Friday, you just queue up and you get in to see the Pantheon. On the weekend, they're requesting that you do a QR code in the front of the Pantheon. You can scan it and book a time to get in. So on Saturdays and Sundays, it's timed entries, as well as holidays. It's also timed entries. So it's something to be aware of when you're looking to get into some of the biggest attractions, like the Louvre. There's a day, but also a time that you need to pick. Those are things that you're going to want to do well before you get on the flight to wherever your destination is, to make sure that you have the, most amount of flexibility and the least amount of stress. So again, have a lot of patience this year, because everyone that has wanted to travel and maybe had trepidation in 2022 coming out of what we did for a couple of years, the floodgates are open, and some cities, some airports, attractions, hotels are as busy as they have ever been. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to get around Europe. Dose of patience will do you some good. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video, and enjoy your travels.